Well, when I joined AVW, there were only 6 shows, and none of them were particularly appealing to me. I definitely felt like there needed to be some other show that was more suited to me, because I've always been really into sci-fi and fantasy, and I like horror films, I like stuff about ghosts and the paranormal and things like that. So, I mean, right away I started trying to think of a show that I would like to work on. And so I talked to David, and he was like, yeah, we accept, pitches for ideas. So I, took some time to think about it, and I dug up an old idea I had for a movie years ago, and I was like, I think that would be a great idea for a show. It was something that I wasn't sure how to make it into a feature-length film, and then when I thought about it again, I was like, gee, that would actually make a really good series. So that was where the idea for Pantheon came from, just like the basic idea of a scientist exploring the spirit world. So, I imagine it's a lot more difficult nowadays since there's 14 shows in AVW. When I pitched it, there were only 8. Basically, you just have to contact the exec board, and I think they either when I pitched it, they had a set time. They were like, okay, everybody who wants to pitch an idea to AVW come to this particular meeting, like meet us at this time. And then they did it kind of like an audition, everybody waited outside. It was kind of a first come, first served type of thing. And so they brought us in one individually. We just pitched the idea, and they, contacted us in a week or two. And I remember I was working in Studio C doing lighting for Fridays Live when David came in. He was actually on the phone, so he was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And I was standing there for about 5 minutes, and he kind of held the phone, and he was like, we're going to pick up your show. And then he went back, and I was like, it's like, thank you so much. And then after that, and immediately I was like, there was initial oh, I'm so excited. Then I was like, oh no, I have to actually put it together now. It's like, I don't even know if I can do it. Initially, the biggest one was just, actually putting the crew together. I mean, I feel like the show actually almost didn't happen because naturally I wanted to direct, and you're not allowed to direct and produce an AVW show, so I had to find a producer. So that was the biggest one. It took me a long time to find Gabriel Anderson, who co-produced the pilot with me, but I was able to persuade him eventually. He wanted to be involved with it somehow, he just wasn't exactly sure, and I was like, well, I really need a producer, and if you feel like that's something you can do. He was a senior at a time, I think he's a 5th year now. So that was the biggest one. Working on the actual pilot was really hectic, particularly our shooting schedule, which was really tight, not very flexible at all. And we shot the pilot in winter quarters, so we had to deal with the weather. I think we actually went 2 weeks without shooting in the middle of the quarter, because 1 week we had shootout, we had to take a weekend off, and the weekend after that we had a huge blizzard, and we had all exteriors to get, so we couldn't shoot that weekend. And I think the weekend after that we only had a small shoot because one of our actors was basically unavailable. Actually, 2 of them. That was probably the biggest challenge, production-wise. For me personally, the biggest challenge has just been dealing with my inexperience. The Pantheon pilot was really the first thing that I ever directed that wasn't just a quick, silly video or a shootout or anything like that. So, well, it's great that I think people should watch it just so that they can see what AVW can do. But I think it demonstrates that the organization can do a lot more. It can basically do anything that you can imagine. So I feel like Pantheon says a lot about the abilities, the extent to which AVW can create, pretty high quality content. I mean, in terms of the way it looks, and it really demonstrates the abilities that what we can accomplish with our equipment and just creativity. The pilot has not yet aired, but I'm hoping to have it air sometime this quarter. But that would air probably. I imagine it airing on Wednesdays or Thursdays, probably at 9 or 10. But our plan is to screen this quarter's episode at the shootout premiere, 48-hour shootout after they screen all the different entries, they have downtime until the judges decide which one wins. So they show a lot of videos between, and typically, AVW's out of studio drama. Maybe by then, typically they would screen their fall quarter episode every year at Shootout, and I'd like to, since that show doesn't exist anymore, I'd kind of like to, take their place as the out of studio show that gets to screen their fall quarter episode every year.